Hello everybody, Jen from Scrapping Under the Influence. I am back with a brand new project and there is a kit available. This is Christmas in the City from Carta, and we've got a fun snow globe shaker on the front. It is an 8x8 album with a 2-inch spine. There are 3 pages. Yeah, and it's of course that beautiful heavy textured Carta cardstock. And of course with my kits everything is included, so all ribbon magnets, the little embroidery hoop to make your shaker on the front, the acetate and the little base piece, and then this what do you want to call it, the ring on here are all cut and included in the kit. So let's go ahead and take a look. So of course, like I said, we've got this super cute shaker on the front. You are getting half of a 6x6 pad in the kit because we needed this little 6x6 piece. They don't sell the 6x6 alone, like individual sheets, so rather than put an entire pad in there that you're only using like 2 sheets out of, you're getting half of a 6x6 pad. You're getting the full paper collection with the sticker sheet, you're getting the solids collection, and you're getting the chipboards for this. So when we open this up, on the front inside we've got an accordion pocket, stacked accordion pockets. I did some large mats just with the extra solids from the collection. I actually inked everything in this, which is unheard of for me. So there is that. So first page, we've got a 4x6 photo mat there that holds the 2 4x6 flaps closed, and you've got just a small layout inside. I did do page inserts with the leftover solids as we go through this. Over here we've got a belly band with more photo mats. You open this up and we've got a 3x4 waterfall in here with lots of space for pictures. On our next page, we've got a couple of nice sized photo spots there, and this opens up and we've got a layout on the inside. And again, another one of our solid cardstock inserts, because the Carta cardstock is absolutely heavy enough to do page inserts with, which is one of the things I do like about Carta. On the next page we've got stacked pockets, and again I've got leftover cut-aparts and the solids in there for mats. On our next page we've got some more flaps with picture space, plus another pocket in here for more pictures, photo mats, whatever it is you are hanging on to and want to, you know, keep and leave with this album. And on the last page we've got our flaps going every which way, and then a nice big photo spot here. I had a white photo mat here originally and I didn't love it, so I actually pulled this sheet out of the 6x6 pad. So that is always an option as well. And then on the back page we've got just a fold out, so this one comes out this way and of course this way, and will hold 4x6 pictures. So that is the project. The tutorial starts next. The kit is available in my shop right now at scrappingundertheinfluence.com under project kits. There is also a cutting guide available. There isn't an SVG file for this one because, you know, this was kind of just a little bonus add-on because I loved that imagery within the collection of the little snow globe with the red base with the city in it. So that was kind of why I decided to do that on the front. There's not enough there really to include an SVG file for. So cutting guide is available as well if you do not want to purchase the kit. And the tutorial starts now. Okay, so for our cover, you are going to start with 2 pieces of chipboard that are 8x8 and 1 piece that is 8x2. To wrap these, you need 1 piece that is 10x5 for the spine and then 10x10 for both covers. So we're going to start with that. I'm going to grab my scoreboard that's got something stuck on it, which is about right. And I'm going to grab my 1-inch top spacer and my 1-inch cover spacer. These are the Clearview cover spacers that are available on my website if you are new here. And they just make the construction of the mini albums that much easier. So I have covered the back side of all of my chipboard pieces with tape in full. You can glue on this step, but I think this gives you a better result. So we're going to go ahead and drop that down, except I moved it. That's okay. Grab my second one. And repeat the same process. I'm going to change my cover spacer for my 1.5-inch spine spacer. And again, the cardstock for the spine is 10 by 5. And get the backing off of that one. There we go. Okay, we are done with our spacers. Move the scoreboard to the side, and we are going to fold all of our cardstock around our chipboard. So just using the chipboard to fold the cardstock around and then burnish where it creased to make a crease. Okay. All right. Do the same thing on our cover pieces. Alright, so the next thing I'm going to do is miter. So on the cover pieces and on the spine you need to remove these corner pieces, and all I do is I fold this over, kind of lift it up, and you can see where you need to line your scissors up and trim. Okay. So after I've gone around one way, you're going to have those little wedges taken out, and then you're going to do the same thing again, going the other direction. Okay, I'm going to do that on all 3 pieces. And when you're taking that little wedge off like that, it doesn't have to be really aggressive. In fact, it's probably best if it's not super aggressive. You just don't want, when everything is wrapped, your cardstock like sticking up over the edge, but you also don't want to cut too far in case you have a corner where you've gotten a little carried away and you cut in too far. That will get fixed essentially when we wrap everything. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing on our spine. Has decided to join us. All right, So we're going to take our spine piece first, and I'm going to take 1/4 inch tape. I'm going to get my 2 ends, not these 2 sides. We're going to do something different with those. Okay. I am going to make sure that's burnished down. Pull my backing off my tape. Oh my gosh, seriously. Okay. And then we are going to just add a little bit of glue along the edge of the chipboard in that space between the tape and the edge of the chipboard, and you're going to take your bone folder, you're going to burnish up against the chipboard, fold this over, and burnish it down. Okay, so along the edge of the chipboard, in the middle, over, and burnish it down. Okay, I'm going to turn this over this direction, and I'm going to burnish along the edge of the chipboard, and we're just working that cardstock down over that edge. Okay. So you can see now it's very defined. I'm going to do that on both sides. And then I'm going to take my tape again. And I'm going to come along this outside edge. The reason I use the combination of the tape and the glue is because the tape will help this grab immediately, and you're not having to sit and burnish it for 10 minutes. And then the glue will hold it forever and ever. Okay? Alright, so I'm going to come on this one. I'm going to go around all 4 sides with the tape. Okay. And we'll go ahead and get the backing off of this. You can do one section at a time. I just tend to go through and pull all the tape off at once. And then we're going to do the same thing along the edge of the chipboard. In that middle, push up against the chipboard, fold it over, burnish it down. And again, I like to go to opposite sides as opposed to just going around and around. I just think it looks a little cleaner that way. And over here. I think Gus is still traumatized from trick-or-treaters last night. He does not like the doorbell ringing like that all the time. It bothers him. Okay. So we're going to repeat that same process with this piece. So again, tape. Tape, and then our backing. And again, along the edge of the chipboard, in the middle section, burnish it up along the chipboard, fold it over, and adhere it down. Alright, so now you're going to take both your cover pieces and your spine, you're going to turn your cover pieces pretty side up. I'm going to go ahead and get the backing off of this, and I'm going to put glue in this big open area next to the tape. Now, you don't want to go all the way up to the edge of the chipboard, you just want to be kind of close. Oops. You're going to lay your cover on top. I can see if it's lined up down here. I can feel it up here with, if I keep my nail lined up right there. I'm just going to pull this over till I feel it kind of slide down off the edge of that chipboard. And then I'm going to drop it down. Okay, turn to the other side and do the same thing again. Maybe. Maybe I'm not. Okay. And again, over. And drop it down. And burnish. Then I'm going to turn it over. I'm going to burnish this down really well. Okay. Last thing you need is a piece of cardstock that is 6 inches wide by 7 7/8 inch high. You're going to cover the back of this entirely with tape. The reason for this is when we put this down to reinforce the spine, you want this to go down as smooth as possible. You don't want it to bubble, you don't want it to lift. Using the tape will get it down completely flat, completely adhered everywhere all the way across. So let's go ahead and get the backing off of that one. And then you're just going to center it. You should have at least 1/2 inch on either side of the hinge where the wings on this, I'm sorry, not the hinge, where the wings on the spine end. You should have about 1/2 inch. And then you're just going to center it top to bottom, close as you can get. And then we are going to burnish. Make sure we are good and stuck down. And then you're going to fold up. Use your bone folder to push into that crease. Okay. Same thing over here. And then close it and pinch. Okay. So I literally will just pinch it closed. That helps set everything in where it needs to be. And there's our cover. Okay. Next up, we're actually going to do our shaker. Okay. I am super excited about this. Except I didn't paint mine. So you don't need this piece yet. Set that aside. After you've matted your cover, you'll line everything up with this piece. But for now, you want the embroidery hoop, you want your shaker fill, and then you want your acetate circle, and then your red ring. Which you can, it is red on both sides. I couldn't remember because it's Carta, so it's typically one color on the solids. They're not usually one on one side, one on the other. So the whole reason that you have 1/2 of a 6x6 pad in this kit is because I wanted this specific sheet, and since they don't sell 6x6 individually, that is the reasoning behind there being a 1/2 sheet in your kit. So I'm going to pull that off, which, I mean, you can use this for photo mats and cards and decorating your album and all that kind of stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my center ring out of my embroidery hoop. Okay. I'm going to put this down. Well, okay. I'm going to kind of figure out about how far down from that little dot I want this to go. So I'm thinking about, what is that? About 3/8 of an inch roughly. It doesn't have to be exact. And then centered side to side. Okay. So I'm going to turn this over. I'm going to get it kind of positioned in the same way. I'm going to take a pencil. I'm going to hold this and I'm going to trace around the hoop. Okay. So I am going to cut this with scissors. You can use just the center hoop. You can put it back together and use the entire assembly and do a bow up here, which is what I'm going to end up doing when we finish it. But for now, I'm going to just set this to the side. Well, I'm going to tighten that back up so it doesn't come apart on me later. Okay. So my hoop is reassembled. Set that to the side. I am going to just take my scissors and cut this out because it's going to get glued on the back of this. As long as it's not sticking out the edges or it's cut too small, you'll be fine. Okay. So I'm going to cut it just with my scissors about just a hair outside the line. And because of how this goes together, if it's not exactly perfect, as long as it's not too small and it doesn't stick out over the edge, which you could absolutely glue this on and then take an X-Acto knife and trim around it and it would work. Okay, so this we are going to adhere on the back. Okay, so as you can see, that is going to be about right. I'm actually going to do it with this side facing up. In your kit, you will have a little tiny tube of E6000. Okay, I can't find my E6000, so I'm using my Gorilla Glue. But you need, that's included in your kit because that's what you're going to need to make sure that this doesn't come apart at any point in the future. Okay, so I'm going to take my hoop. I'm going to come around my edges with the glue, and on the little tubes of the E6000, you take the cap off and turn it around upside down and poke into the foil in the center of the nozzle, and that's how you open that if you've never worked with that before. Okay, except I missed a spot right there. Okay. So I am going to very carefully turn this back over and pick up my piece, okay? Because it will kind of be sticky enough to pick up your paper. That's what you want. I would recommend having a rag of some kind on hand so you can kind of clean up your edges a little bit, so you don't get this all over your hands like I'm doing right now. Okay. Like I said, I didn't paint mine. You absolutely can paint yours first. I probably will end up painting my edges. My inside I'm not worried about. Okay, so we are going to set that aside to dry. You're going to set it aside with the glue facing up, just so that you don't accidentally glue this to your work surface, which I've almost done more than once, and we're going to come back to that. Okay, so let me actually, because I did get some on my table here, then put the lid back on your E6000 and set that aside too, because you're going to need it again after we fill that and we put the acetate on. Okay. All right. So the shaker has been started, and like I said, the whole reason we're doing this is to give it time to dry. It does need, I don't want to say a significant amount of time, but it needs more than like if you were using art glitter glue, which will work. However, this is going to hold better, especially because the embroidery hoop, of course, is a little bit heavier than what you would have with just a normal, you know, foam shaker or even a chipboard shaker. So that's why we're doing it that way. Okay, next up we're going to do our hinge and our page bases. All right. So our hinge, let me get my notes, is 7.5 by 4.5. You are going to start with the 4.5 at the top, and you are going to score this every 1/2 inch. So 4.5 at the top of your scoreboard, you're going to score 1/2 inch, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4. Okay. Move that off to the side. And grab my bone folder and my pencil again. So we're going to zoom in. Maybe I hit the little button the right direction. Sorry if the camera's moving. Okay. So we're going to mark an X and an X and then skip a spot. Okay. X, X, skip. X, X. Okay, this only needs to be 4 inches, not 4.5. Haha. Okay, well, we will fix that on the directions that you guys get, and I'm going to trim that off of the end here, so it did only need to be 4 inches. I literally sketched this out at a work training, so yeah. Okay, so we are going to start in the middle. You're going to fold this over. You're going to make sure your ends line up side to side. Okay? Then you're going to burnish from the middle out. Okay? Fold it back from the middle out, turn it over, fold it back towards yourself again, middle out, okay? Turn it over, go to one of your ends. Since this is only 3 pages, this one will be a very simple one. Okay. Fold it back. The biggest key here is you're burnishing from the middle out, because if you're starting at an end and you're applying pressure and burnishing that score line down, it can cause your score lines to warp and like not be straight. Okay? So again, middle out, turn it over, and again, middle out. Okay, now we're going to go right back through those same steps again, starting in the middle with our adhesive. So I'm going to add my glue. I'm going to fold over again, make sure I am still lined up, and then burnish from the middle out. You probably will have some glue seep out, that's fine. We're going to fold it back and do the same thing again. So we're going to burnish out from the middle, turn it over again, fold it back, and burnish again. So doing all of that is going to make sure that that really sticks together, that the glue gets evenly distributed in there, and it also helps work those fibers to loosen them up so that your hinge turns smoothly. Okay? And do the same thing again on the ends. So fold it over, out, and out. Got my glue mess. Back the other direction, fold it over, burnish out and out. Okay. And back side. Okay. Out. Turn it over, fold it back, and burnish it again. Now, if you want to check and see if your hinge is straight, maybe a ruler somewhere that makes some sense, because I'm not seeing it here anywhere. Huh, okay. Well, we're going to find an alternative. All right. So if you want to check how straight your ruler is, you're going to measure at the top. So I am at 1 inch. I am at 1 inch. And there you go. So go ahead and grab your alum base, and you'll see this is narrower. Well, hold on, let's zoom back out here. So this is narrower than your spine by quite a bit, because we're doing a little accordion pocket on the front inside, like a stacked accordion pocket. We're actually going to do this slightly off center, more towards the back, so that that has space. Okay, but you do want to mat this first. So I am going to grab my trimmer, and I'm going to grab one of my pattern papers. I don't know which one. Not my cut parts. Actually, I think I'm going to grab a solid. I think that'll be a little bit easier. Okay. So you do have your 12 by 12 solids. Because it is Carta Bella, they are same colors on... Oh, no, they're not. Haha. That's why. Because my pieces for your snow globe were not from this pack. That's why. It's like, why is mine not the same? It was different. That's why. Alright, so I think I am going to use this burgundy, but I'm going to use the navy side. So I am going to cut that to 1/7/8 by 7 7/8. And go ahead and glue that down, and then we can attach our hinge. Yeah, sorry for that pause. I had to look at this for a second going, why is our spine 2 inches? That would be why. It was that accordion pocket. I wanted to make sure it had space. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to take my hinge like this, turn it over, because that way I'm going to hold it nice and flat on the back, and I can get my glue onto the back. Okay, and then I'm going to hold it by the outside edges, and like I said, I'm not going full center. I'm going to leave it, give it about 1/8 of an inch extra on this side. Okay, now hold it still and burnish, hold it still and burnish, and we're going to set that aside to dry. Okay, so for the page bases themselves, you need 3 pieces that are 7.5 by 7.5. These do not need any scoring. Okay, you need 3 pieces that are 8 by 8. These will be scored at 1/2 inch on 2 sides. So 8 inches at the top, which they're 8 by 8, so you know, it is what it is. You're going to score this at 1/2 inch. You're going to turn a 1/4 turn and 1/2 inch again. Okay, I'm going to do that on all 3. Again. Okay, so I'm going to move those. And what we're going to do is we're going to cut through this bottom corner where those score lines cross. So I've got mine stacked. I'm just going to do all 3 at once. I may regret this, but we'll see. Okay, like so. And then you're going to miter ever so slightly on your top corners. Okay, so from that score line out, you're just going to take another little wedge, and then we can fold and burnish. So again, when folding and burnishing score lines like this, you're going to do it from the middle out. Okay? So when you see me start in the middle and go like this and then go back without lifting up, I'm not putting as much pressure until I get back in the middle again. Okay? So let's go ahead and fold and burnish all 3 of those. And there we go. All right, so what we're gonna do is this. We are going to take one of our 7.5 inch pieces. I'm going to line them up on this bottom corner that does not have any of the fold lines, okay? And then I'm going to add glue to that entire tab, okay? Just with my fingers, I'm going to burnish across. Okay? And then with bone folder. Okay. Trying to decide which way I want to do this because I have done it both ways, where I have closed this up and then attached them to the hinge, or I've left them open and then attached them. I think I'm going to close mine because I'm using my hinge spacer. If you haven't seen the hinge spacers, they come in 4 different sizes: 3/8, 1/2 inch, 5/8, and 3/4, just depending on how big the gusset between your pages is. My 1/2 inch is the one I use the most. But I do occasionally use the 5/8. I've yet to actually use the 3/4, but I had them requested. It was not a big deal to kind of adjust my file for that. So when you're using this, this will go on either end of your hinge over your tabs for your hinge. Okay? What it does is it keeps, when you're putting your pages down on your hinge, you put them down till they touch the spacer. The spacer is 1/8 of an inch thick. It keeps it that 1/8 of an inch off of the base of your hinge so that your pages turn smoothly and lay flatter, okay? And it keeps them evenly spaced all the way across the project so that you don't have them at different distances from that hinge, okay? Because of this, I am able to put these, get these sealed up and put these in the book like that, okay? So I am going to go ahead and glue my other side down. If you are doing this without the spacers, which I know not everybody has the spacers, I've sold a ton of them, but not everybody has them, then you're probably only going to want to do one side, okay? And I'll show you actually how you're going to do that instead. Okay, so I am lining this up. Pinching that down and just kind of burnishing with my fingers before I lay it down flat and burnish all the way across. Okay, so I'm going to leave that one unsealed for now. We're going to do this one same way I did my first one, so okay, I'll get my other side. And again, we're going to go remove. No, maybe we're good. We're good. Just kidding. We're okay. All right, so now I'm going to grab my base. So if you are, of course, doing this without the hinge, what you're going to do is you're going to open up your page, or no, sorry, without the hinge, without the guide, the spacer, okay? You're going to open this up, you're going to hook that on the bottom, and you're going to glue it, okay? And then you're going to give it a minute to dry, and then you'll glue this and this and fold it over and burnish and give it time to dry again. The key there is making sure that you're not going flush up against that hinge, that you're pulling it back ever so slightly, okay, so that you have that gap. I don't think typically too, I would tell you, and I completely forgot, I apologize if you didn't, it's not a big deal. If you cut the height of your hinge just slightly under, then you don't have to worry about anything sticking out the top. Mine, I can tell, is going to be a little bit more out the top than I would like. So I'm going to very, very carefully, with my scissors, just take a little tiny bit off of that. It happens, even with as many of these as I've made. Every so often I forget about that and it ends up being kind of funky at the top, but it's fine. Literally, most people aren't going to notice. I notice because I notice, but that's because of the number of these I've made. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and glue my second one, my last one closed, just because I am using the spacers and I don't need that one to be open. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to slide these over my hinges, okay? One on each end. These are set up for a maximum of 5 pages. However, if you have more pages than that, you would do however many you have, and then once they're attached, you would slide it over and do the rest. I typically don't go more than 5 pages, ever. Ever, ever, especially with a 1/2 inch gusset. That just seems like a lot. And a lot of page elements to have to design. Okay, so what I'm going to do, and this will work even without the guides, I'm going to add glue in my corners, okay? Just like that. Corners only, okay? I am going to slide this on, make sure I'm down against those spacers, and then I'm just going to hold it in those corners and those corners only, because after we get all 3 pages on here, we're going to slide our spacers out, lay this down flat, and then take the little tip on the glue bottle and go up in between and glue the rest of it. Initially, I used to try to glue more of it in doing this with these spacers, and it just proved to be too hard to get them to, you know, adhere the way you wanted to. Just doing the corners, removing the spacers, and then going back with the glue actually works a lot better, because then you can really burnish them, so on and so forth. So, okay. All right. So again, and I should have started going the other direction, because now I can't see my pages, or my hinges, but that's okay. I've done this enough times, I can see it on the screen, but it's still just kind of awkward to try to line it up on the screen as opposed to just, you know, looking down at it, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and pinch that. And then we'll get our last one. Oops. Okay. And we're pinching. Okay. After you've given all of those a chance to dry, to remove the spacers, you're going to push from right here, okay, so like so, and just slide them straight out. On the other side, and you will get glue on them. I really need to like come through and clean mine. I just haven't, but that's okay. All right, that's it. That's literally how you use the spacers. Okay, so I'm gonna grab gunk off the tip of my glue. And you can see here how that's kind of open. All I'm gonna do is stick my glue tip in there and run a line of glue. And then I'm gonna burnish it down. Okay. I will caution you, however, doing it this way. Really doing it anyway. Anytime you're matted your spine or your hinge, underneath your hinge, you know what I'm trying to say, I swear. You want to be careful so that you don't have glue seep out and then this stick to that and pull up, because I cannot tell you how many times I have done exactly that, regardless of which way I'm actually putting my pages in. Okay. And again. This way. A little bit outside there, but that's okay. And again, just, you know, these are just the blue shop towels. They sell them at Costco. They sell them at like Lowe's, Home Depot, auto parts stores, that kind of thing. They don't leave fuzz, so I've been using them in here forever. They're just the best. Okay. All right, so our pages are in. Let's go ahead and start working on our inside elements. Okay, so let's go ahead and work on our page elements and whatnot. Okay, so front inside cover, we are going to do a stacked accordion pocket. So your first piece is going to be 5 5/8 by 11. So with the 11 inches at the top, we're going to score it half, 1 inch. So I'm going back over those lines. 1 1/2, and then sorry, I have to think here for a second. Yes, 9 1/2, 10, and 10 1/2. Okay. Just go over those one more time. Your second piece is going to be 4 5/8 by 11, and we're going to, oh, we didn't finish scoring that. Okay. Half, 1 1/2, 9 1/2, 10, 10 1/2. Turn it to the other side, and you're going to score 1/2 inch and 5/8. Sorry. Total brain damage all of a sudden. All right, so second piece, 4 5/8 by 11 with the 11 at the top. We're going to go 1/2 inch, 1, 1 1/2, 9 1/2, 10, 10 1/2. Turn it again, 1/2 inch, and 5/8. Okay. So what we're going to do on both of these, okay, we're going to miter it ever so slightly across there, okay, on both ends. On the end where everything crosses, you are going to come in on the 5/8 score line, okay, like so. You are then going to miter up like so, okay. like that. Okay? You do the same thing on the other piece. So again, slight miter at the top. Doesn't have to be super aggressive. And we're going to come in on the bottom. Like so. And like so. Okay. So now you're going to take your bone folder, you're going to fold this in, and you're going to burnish. And you're going to burnish. And you're going to burnish. Okay. And again. And again. Okay. You're going to take your bottom, you're going to fold up, and then you are going to push back for that 1/8 inch and burnish that, because what will happen is you will fold these down inside like so. So you've got that little 1/8 inch gusset. It's going to allow those to sit inside. This will still, you know, accordion out like we want it to. What I'm going to do is put a little dab of glue on those bottom corners, flatten it, push this up, and then we are going to just adhere those corners down. Okay, like so. And we'll do the same thing over here. So we'll fold and burnish. And it doesn't matter if you do this bottom first or you do the sides first. Sides, you're going to come in, out, in, and again, in, out, in, okay, and then again, dot, and dot, flip this over, all right, we're going to attach the small one on top of the big one, maybe. Mine wants to glue the way it's supposed to. I did not hold on to it long enough. Okay. Okay. So this one's going to go on top of here, like so. Try not to smush your bottom gussets, but it can be on the harder side to not, and it's fine. Okay, and then this whole thing will go in here to this outside edge to the bottom corner. Okay, so again, we're going to go like so. Take your bone folder and just kind of get in there and burnish that, which it's an accordion. You can actually reach in there and do it too. Okay. All right, there is your accordion pocket, and why we have to do that. The hinges and the pages slightly offset. Okay. All right. Front of page 1, we have 2 flaps, a tuck spot, and an insert. so the tuck spot is going to be 1 by 7.5. It does not require scoring. The insert is going to be 4 1/8 by 6 1/8. It also does not require scoring. Our flaps are going to be 6 1/8 by 4 5/8. The 4 5/8 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And again, okay. We're going to go ahead and miter. And I am stacking and mitering my pieces at the same time. I am also going to corner round, and today I'm going to be smart and do this before I put them in the book, because I did not do that with my last project, and I spent a lot of time swearing at myself off camera because I was using the little one where it kind of goes in like a ticket stub, and that one's hard to get like perfectly straight on a normal basis when it's not in the book, and try to do it when it's in the book, and oh dear God. Okay, so this is going to go to this outside edge, centered top to bottom. Okay. And burnish that down. I'm going to go to the opposite side and do the same thing. Just using the one above it, or the one on the above it. The way the book's sitting, it's above. On the opposite side to line them up side to side, or top to bottom, so that they're lined up the same. Your tuck spot, because it's going flush with the very bottom of the page, except I put these too low. Oh Lord. Okay, well I'm going to have to trim that down, because these should have been up about 1/4 inch more. Or, you know what, honestly, it's fine either way. So I'm going to cut this one down to 3/4 inch. That should be enough. And you may need to adjust yours, just depending on where you put your flaps. I like them centered better. No, I need to take a little bit more off of that. Oh my gosh. Okay. So let's take another 1/8 inch off. Honestly, it probably would have been easier to go through my scraps and find something I could just cut a 5/8 inch piece off of. Alright, that'll work. So, as I was starting to say, we don't need to mat this first because it's going to go just straight across the bottom, and you can slide your matting down behind it and it will be just fine. But yeah, I did put that lower than I intended, but that's okay. Alright, so that's on. This will go here, this will go here. There's your front of page 1. Okay. Back side of page 1, we have a belly band, a waterfall, and a closure for the belly band. So, let's start with the belly band itself. This is 4 1/8 by 8.5. With the 8.5 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 8 inches. The closure is 4 1/8 by 6 3/4. You're going to score this at 1/2 inch. And then your waterfall, you are going to have 5 pieces that are 4 1/8 by 3 5/8. Now, the reason for that is so you can just use your 3x4 cut aparts to mat this without having to trim them down to fit. Okay, so 3 5/8 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch on all 5 of those pieces. Okay. Waterfalls we do not miter. So once we have these, they just need to be folded and burnished on those score lines. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and fold and burnish our waterfall pieces just so you don't accidentally pick them up and miter them. Something I have absolutely done on more than one occasion. Okay. And again. And there we go. All right. So the belly band, you're going to miter. Hold on. One more score mark on this 6 3/4 inch piece. So 1/2 inch and 5/8. This one does have a small gusset in it. I completely forgot I ended up adding that after I had already, you know, had this partially ready to go. Okay, so we're going to miter that as well. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to take my little closure piece and I'm going to fold and burnish both of my score lines on this and then flatten the 1/8 inch one back out. I'm going to fold and burnish the end of my belly bands, the ends of my belly band. So this is going to go like so, okay? I am also going to corner round before I forget. Now, if you want to corner round your waterfall pieces, you can absolutely do that. I don't think I'm going to on this one. I think I'm going to leave them for now. Something I probably am going to regret later, so I probably should just round the silly things, but yeah, let's go ahead and round them. And I'm using the 10mm, or the biggest one if you have the We Are Memory Keepers corner rounder, like this one. I believe the Dress My Craft version is the same. I actually have one from Tailored Expressions. Okay. All right. So we're going to go ahead and build our waterfall on top of the belly band before we put it in the book. Okay. So starting at what will end up being the left-hand side of the belly band, I'm going to go ahead and put my first little flap on here. And just move across. So you're going to open it up, get your glue on your next one, and you're going to butt that up right up against the edge of the tab from the flap before it. Because we're doing this on the belly band, it's going to be very, very easy to get this one nice and straight because you literally have an edge on both sides to line it up to. Okay. And one more, and this last one we're actually going to fold back the other direction and put this tab on top of the one before it. Because that just means when you flip that last page, you don't have that little tab just kind of sitting there, okay? All right, so before I close that down and burnish it, I'm going to come to my closure on the other side. Now it's just going to go on this opposite side. can push your 1/8" score line back out. Alright, so now I'm going to come back, and as I flip my waterfall pages closed, I'm going to burnish on each one of them, like so, and then this will go over like that, and then you will take your magnets and some tape and go ahead and add these as well. So I'm going to lay this flat or closed. I'm going to kind of keep my fingers about where that hits that, the end of that hits, and I'm going to go about maybe 1/2 inch in from where this closes. So it closes right there. I'm about 1/2 inch in, okay? Then I can close this one again, drop its other magnet on top, and tape it down as well, okay? This now can go on the back side of page 1. And you can do it either direction if you think, I think I'm going to do it so it opens like this and then like this, just because I don't like that little 1/8" gusset we've got on there being on this inside edge. That's going to bother me. Okay, so I'm going to center this out here like so, and then push my other side down, burnish it, and burnish this, and there you go, there's your belly band. Okay, I need to grab the ribbon for this kit. I didn't bring that in here yet, and I'll be right back. Alright, so let's do the next step for our shaker. So you've got your little acetate circle, and if you've got like an edge that's kind of like not perfect, it's literally from the Cricut cutting this, because I can't cut this with the Glowforge. But when we go and do our little ring on it, it will cover that up, so it won't be a problem. Alright, so got your shaker fill. You can decide how much of this you want to use. I'm not sure how much I plan on using, honestly. You know what? I think I'm going to use all of it. You could hold some of these little jewels and things that are in this out if you wanted to like glue onto your frame and your cover and whatnot. If you wanted to do that, you absolutely could. That would be awesome. But I'm going to do it just like that. Okay, so this one is going to end up sitting pretty much just on this inside frame, okay? So what I would suggest is, if you've got like a paintbrush with a thin like handle on it, I would suggest that to kind of help spread out your E6000 when you're putting this on here. And yes, I realize I still haven't painted this yet, and mine might not get painted because honestly, I think it's going to be okay. Ooh, don't do that. This is why right there, because I just got that down into my thing and I don't want it down in. And then what I'm going to do is I can take the end of this and just kind of spread this out a little bit more. Like I said, don't worry if it's like, doesn't look perfect. It'll be fine. big thing is just to make sure that your entire acetate circle is going to sit and adhere. Okay, so you're going to line it up down here on your end, and then you can just kind of push down. And again, if you've got a rag of some kind, just because this stuff does get kind of sticky and weird, and definitely not something I prefer to work with, but, and just kind of use that when you're burnishing it down. I'm going to wipe that off the end of that paintbrush. And then set it aside to dry again. Once this is dried, then you can go ahead and use score tape, or actually you can even glue this. You can glue paper onto acrylic or onto acetate. It works, especially because you'll like glue this and set it aside, not touch it for a while, so it'll have time to dry. So you'll go ahead and put that down on top, and then all you need is your ribbon. Okay, so the front of page 2, we have 2 flaps that are held closed with ribbon. If you saw my YouTube live yesterday, I'm recording this November 2nd, so I did a live yesterday on November 1st. And I was like, oh, I didn't order the ribbon. It's because I forgot I ordered navy for this. There is a lot of like navy in this collection, and that's what I'd ordered for this, to kind of pick that up. But of course that was in, you know, July, so like I remember anything. Anyway, so I've got about 24 inches of the ribbon that's in your kit. And I'm going to go ahead and attach that first, literally, so I don't forget to do it, because I'm really good at doing that. So typically I'll leave it one length, and I'll attach it mostly centered on one side. Loop it up and across so that I'm getting it pretty much, you know, centered in some spot on the next side. And then I'll just cut it. That way I can kind of visually go, yeah, that's going to be enough. Especially if you're like me and can't tie a bow to save your life. That is, unfortunately, usually a necessary step. Okay, so front of page 2, we have 2 flaps. These are 7.5 by 4 1/4. This is going to be a layout page when you open this. So with the 4 1/4 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And again, at 1/2 inch. And miter. And then we'll go ahead and fold and burnish. Missing something. So let's go ahead and do that as well. And I haven't quite decided if I'm actually going to ink my paper when I go to mat this. I have not decided yet. I kind of want to, but then again, I know how well that usually goes, and I forget halfway through, so I don't know that I will actually be doing that, but we'll see. But of course, that is always an option. It's just one of those things that I'm really bad about doing consistently throughout an entire project. Usually because I get interrupted. It's rare that I actually sit down and finish like matting an entire project in one day, even on the weekends. But I kind of feel like this maybe needs some ink. I just don't know what color. So, all right. So there we go. So those will be a gatefold close. And then we'll do a layout in the center there. Okay. On the back side of page 2, we have stacked pockets. So the taller pocket is going to be 8.5 by 4.5. With the 8.5 at the top, you're going to score it 1/2 inch and 8 inches. Turn it to the 4.5 inch side and score it 1/2 inch. The smaller piece is going to be 3 by 8.5. So with the 8.5 at the top, you're going to score again at 1/2 inch and 8 inches. Turn to the 3 inch side and score at 1/2 inch. Okay. Because these are pockets, we are going to miter all the way through the bottom corner where those score lines cross. And then you're going to miter at the top. And same thing on the big pocket. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and fold and burnish all of my score lines. Okay, I'm actually going to attach my small pocket to the big pocket before I put it in the book, just because that's going to be easier. So I'm going to go ahead and add glue to the bottom tab. And get that lined up on the bottom. The reason we're doing this beforehand is because then I can move it around and make sure it's sitting where I want it to sit before we go and put it in the book and then end up with the bottom pocket that doesn't sit quite right. Okay, so I'm going to open that up, add glue to my side tabs, and then burnish those down. Okay, alright, so that is just going to go right down here at the bottom. Nothing fancy. Okay. And again, I'm going to turn this and burnish that bottom down. Put it up. Burnish again, and then I can add the glue to the side. And down we go. Okay. All right, front of page 3, we have flaps and a pocket. Okay. All right, so this one, hold on, I have to look at my sketch and how I did this one. No, not a pocket. Yes, it's a pocket. How did I do this? Oh, because I need ribbon, that's why. Sorry. Total brain damage this morning. It's early. Okay, so about another 24 inches of your ribbon. And this time it's going to come across this way. So I will go ahead and center that at the top. And the bottom. And then go ahead and trim that. Alright, so scoreboard. The flaps for this are going to be 4 1/4 by 7 1/2. With the 4 1/4 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And again, your pocket is 3 1/2 by 8 1/2. With the 8 1/2 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch and 8 inches. Turn and score 1/2 inch again. And go ahead and miter. So we're going to miter our pocket, top, and then at the bottom where the score lines cross. And then on our flaps, we'll miter. And then we will corner round. Okay, now we can go ahead and fold and burnish. For this one, the flaps will go in, and then the pocket. This is going to be a side-loading pocket. Let's go fold and burnish that too while we're at it. Okay. All right, so I'm going to start my top. Flap in. Let's pick up the right one. Let's not try and pick up the one we just glued. That'd make way more sense. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm going to open this up, turn it sideways. Our side loading pocket is going to go to this side. And before you glue this, put glue on this, lay it on there, get it all the way out where it's going to go, and make sure that the flaps are going to close, and mine do not close right. So I need to adjust my pocket. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this back in my scoreboard, lined up at the top. I'm going to just slide it over in between the 1/2 inch and the 5/8. And then I'm going to score on the 5/8 line. Okay. So that's what that looks like. So it's not quite an 1/8 of an inch difference. It's closer to a 1/16. I'm going to re-trim. And then I'm going to fold that over. Burnish that down. Okay, so that's what that ends up looking like when it's fixed. To avoid that entirely, cut it slightly short. If you cut it slightly short, you'll score 1/2 inch, you'll turn it all the way around and score 1/2 inch again. Okay. Yep, now we're good. Okay. And I've said this to a lot of people when I've taught at events or whatever, almost everything with these is fixable. You don't have to completely tear something out. You don't have to, you know, start over. Most stuff can be adapted and fixed without too much hassle. I need to figure out a way to do an entire video of just how to fix weird things that happen. But I'm not sure how I would go about doing that. Like how I would, you know, get a nice comprehensive, see, I almost did my ribbon too short there. I mean, it's good, but when you're me and can't tie a bow, that's short. All right, back side of page 3, we have flaps. Flaps and flaps and flaps. Okay, and I believe one more magnet set. So let me actually write that down. Because I do have to, you know, that is the one thing with doing the cutting guides and doing the kits is I have to keep track of like all of that stuff to make sure that the right amount of stuff is in your kit and to make sure, you know, the measurements are accurate. And I actually kind of changed how I'm doing this. I actually did this with the Classic Mouse Christmas, is I went ahead and typed up the cutting guide before, as opposed to going off of my sketches and my notes, because when I'm designing, I literally sketch out how it's supposed to look and then write out the measurements. I rarely make prototype albums. I've done it this way since the beginning. I sketch it out. I kind of, especially at this point, as many as I've made, I can typically sketch it out and I go, okay, my page base is 7.5 by 7.5, and I can pretty much sketch out what I want it to look like, and then I know the measurements. I don't know. I know that's like incredibly weird, but that's how I do this. So, and I've done it that way since the beginning, since I started designing them. I will do prototypes, like if it's something really different, like it's something I've never done before and I want to make sure it's going to work. So occasionally I'll build a prototype of like a page base and the elements on it, or like with the Christmas or the Holiday Chronicle that I just did, that really huge album, I did make an entire prototype on that, just to make sure that there was enough paper to mat it. I had to go through my stash and find another Simple Stories collection that I had that much paper of, and the same embellishments and whatnot, so I could create it in one line that was not the line that was going into the kit, to make sure everything was going to work the way I wanted it to and adjust it where I needed to. And then I was able to go back and do the actual project, and it worked flawlessly. It made doing the actual tutorial and the actual sample for the tutorial so much easier with that one, just because of the sheer size of it. That's literally the largest album I have ever done as far as, you know, spine, pages, elements, like everything. I've not done one to date that big, so that was something. Okay, back to page 3, the back side of page 3. So we have two pieces that are 6 5/8 by 4 1/8. With the 6 5/8 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. And again, these are going to be so that you can map them with 4x6 cut aparts or photos, however you want to do that. And then you have two pieces that are 4 1/8 by 4 5/8. With the 4 5/8 at the top, you're going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. You're going to miter and corner round and all of the things. So tab on both sets. And then I'm going to corner round. Okay. And fold and burnish. Alright, so the smaller flaps are going to come in from the sides. The larger ones are going to be top and bottom. Okay, so let's do our smaller ones first. I'm going to start, let's put everything to one side. Why is it everywhere? Okay, so we are going to start on the inside, so I'm going to just center that up. And burnish that down. I'm going to go to the opposite side. I'm going to make sure that's closed so I can use it to line up the flap that goes on top of it. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and do our larger flaps. And the idea behind this page is, you know, it kind of layers together and looks like a present, like ribbon on a present, you know, going both, crossing around and all of that thing. I used to do very elaborate present wrapping at Christmas. My dad would do the most beautiful bows and things on presents when I was a kid. It was just, and all he ever wrapped for was my mom, but still. They were always really pretty. Okay, so you're going to grab your other set of magnets and split those apart, or not split those apart. And again, I've said, I think I say it in every video where I do the magnets, slide them apart. Don't try and pull these apart because these will break. They can break very easily, actually. Okay, so we're going to go about right there. So like, there's where the bottom of my flap sits, and I'm going about 1 inch above that. Then you can close that, drop your other one down on top, and tape it down. Okay, back inside cover. We are going to mat this before we put our element on. This is the paper I did pick for this. I'm now debating about the matting of this, or the inking of this, so give me 1 second. Because I want probably that one. And I don't know where my little handle piece is. It usually sits up on top of my desk here. I probably cleaned it up and put it away. Because you know that's helpful. There it is. Or one of them anyway. I have the best little drawers on the side here from Stamp and Storage. And I have labels on all but like 4 of the drawers. And it's because 4 of the drawers have literally become junk drawers. It's just, yeah. Okay, so pretty much, I mean, I have Distress Oxides. I have a handful of normal Distress ink. Most of my ink is Taylor Expressions, and I love it. Oh yeah, I like that, but that dark navy like that. Yeah, apparently we're inking now. You'll have to, you know, probably go watch the walkthrough again and see if I actually did it for the entire I will not be doing it on our little red ring that goes on our shaker cover. I mean, just seems like overkill, but you know, what do I know? Actually, that one, I might dig out the white pigment ink and do it with that, because that might be kind of neat. But we'll see. Okay. So the matting for that is 7 7/8 by 7 7/8 because it is an 8 by 8 cover. All right, so our final piece, we are doing a little flip on the back and side cover. So your cardstock is 6 by 12. 6 by 12, yes. With the 12 inches at the top, you're going to score at 4 inches and 8 inches. And then you're just going to fold it in on itself. Actually, no. We're going to do a Z-fold because it's going to attach with this and then it's going to fold like this. That's how I was going to do that. Okay, so Z-fold. You're going to take another piece of your ribbon. I'm not going to cut mine because I want to see exactly how much I need to tie this. Like about that. Okay. So this, I need to figure out which way I want it to open. So I'm going to glue it so it's going this way so that when it opens, like this, so it pulls out to the outside. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead with the ribbon around it just like that. And I am going to glue that right here in the middle. You could absolutely leave like the top unglued or the side unglued and use it as like a tuck spot. I'm not going to do that. Okay? Now, you're going to take the rest of your ribbon to do a closure on the outside of your book. I've lost my tape because I put it away. Which this one's not chunky enough that it really needs the ribbon closure. I just think it's going to look nice. Okay. All right, all that's left is to go ahead and put our shaker on the cover. Let me go ahead and figure out what base paper I'm using. Actually, before we do that, where did my shaker go? Oh, it's over here. Okay, so I did take a white paint pen. This is what I used to paint this, and I did it on the metal as well. Okay, so I'm going to take my little red ring and I'm going to glue that on. Of course, you could paint yours whatever color you would like. But that's what I would have with. Okay, so this piece will fit exactly on top of your acetate. So kind of keep an eye on where that sits when you put that down. If you get any glue on there like I just did, once this is dried, you can go ahead and remove that with just some rubbing alcohol. So there is our shaker ready to go. I will be back with the cover batting and how we're going to put this on and put this all together, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, so to finish this off, we're going to go ahead and mat. I ended up with the back side of this one that's got all the snow globes on it because that was a bit busy. But I like the green on the back, and I did ink that, not that you can tell, but I did use the snow globe side on the spine and did ink that one as well. I'm literally going to have to put like a giant note in front of me to ink my paper. Okay. There we go. Okay. Alright, so this is again 7 7/8 by 7 7/8. The spine is 7 7/8 by 1 7/8. Okay, so what we're going to do, you've got your little base piece here. I'm going to get glue on here, and we're going to glue it to the back of the snow globe. So, get it centered. And you're going to do it so that the edges here just barely come up onto the back. And I did not glue, I did not ink that because it doesn't need it, okay? And then we're going to glue that in the middle. If you have any of the stickers or anything you want to kind of put poking out around it, you can do that. I debated, but I think it's too big, and I don't know if there's a smaller one on the chipboard sheet. Hold on. No, the chipboard sheet's bigger. Okay. So I would have liked, I think it's going to be too big. We're going to pick it up and see. Oh, no. Oh, that's okay. Okay, so I am putting the big Christmas tree sticker on the front of that. And then for our little piece up here, what did I decide I was doing? I'm going to go ahead and just glue that down. I'm going to add glue just to make sure it stays, but that's going to go up there at the top to kind of hide our little piece on the top of our embroidery hoop. I'm like, what is this thing called? Okay, so I'm going to glue this on. And for this step, you can just use your art glitter. It'll stay because it's paper to paper. You will not have any issues with that. I'm just going to kind of center that there. And I do need to still clean the front of this with the rubbing alcohol, but we can do that later. And then you can go ahead. So I was going to look and see, why did I think there were some cut parts. In the rest of your 6x6, you do have some smaller like sentiment pieces that you can use to kind of decorate with this. What I had planned on doing was this little Christmas joy down here on, if I can get it centered up where I want it. There we go. Like so, and then whatever else you want to add around that, you've got like little chipboard snowflakes on here that you could add. You've got some other little ornaments and things. So I will leave the rest of that up to you guys, but that's how I'm doing the cover. And at this point, it's just a matter of matting and decorating, and you're done. So as always, thank you for watching and following along and purchasing kits and helping me grow my website. I so appreciate it, more than you can possibly imagine. And I will be back again soon with another project. Thanks, guys.